Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Mike Ames Recruitment Show, where we are going to be talking about AIDA, which we refer to as the marketing silver bullet. Now, we're going to cover things like how to use it to reach unreachable prospects, how to use it to win more sales pitches, and how to use it to get more emails read. Isn't that right, Michael?
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. So, in a minute, I'm going to explain to you exactly what AIDA is, how it's structured, and how you can use it, because it's one of those tools that's been around for a long time, 1910, so it's 112 years or whatever it is. I couldn't work that out.
Yeah, simple maths, really. That's basic.
But it still works, and it stood the test of time, and it still works because it draws upon human nature. It's not a fancy marketing tool like electronic or whiz-bang marketing babble. It actually works on human beings and how we see things. So that's why it's just incredibly powerful. But I think the real question is, why do we need it, Kirsty?
Oh, I love a why do we need it? Well, I think actually, Michael, I think I should be asking you that, because why do we need it?
I'll tell you why. Because there is so much noise out there right now, like massive amounts of stuff being bandied around. I read that the number of LinkedIn posts went up 40% last year. Right? How are you supposed to get your posts read and actioned? Emails, I dread to think how many emails are sent each day. Now, okay, a lot of them end up in junk and clutter.
All of mine. I think I've got about 3,000 in clutter and probably another 4,000 or 5,000 in junk. Like,
you are brutal. But even if you manage to get yours through because you've protected your online reputation and so your emails get through, there's still a very good chance that they won't get read if they don't know who you are, if it's to someone cold or someone to lukewarm. So, and that's a real problem these days. Ask yourself this question: how many emails from people you don't know or don't know very well do you actually read? And quite honestly, in my case, if I'm busy, which I am most of the time, not very many. And you know that you were talking earlier before we started, Kirsty, about what's the average attention span that you get?
Oh, it used to be something like 20 seconds to gain someone's attention or something like that. And now it's decreased down to like 4 or 5. Like, you only have to watch movies. So if you watch old movies, the one shot would be on camera for kind of 20, 30 seconds. Whereas if you watch like a modern day film, like a Marvel film or something, every 3 or 4 seconds is a cut. And it's because people's attention spans have just got short.
Yeah, they lose your attention, right? So it's even worse with emails. In some cases, it's split second. I did it just before we came on air. I like an empty inbox. I've got one email in, just popped in. So I look at the email and it's from somebody who we buy a product from. But I just can't be asked to read it. It didn't inspire me to open it and read it. So that happens a lot. So in recruitment, where most of us are, of course, you're trying to send emails to get meetings, to perhaps spec in CVs, to get a CV looked at least. Or even if the CV it should get sent in, so you're sending it to a supplier. You're sending it to a client as a supplier. And it's a valid CV, they're expecting it. If they're getting a lot, they might look at somebody else's CVs before yours. So there's all sorts of situations where we want to grab attention, which is what the A stands for, the first A, and then create some interest on the back of it, build some desire, and then inspire action, whatever that might be for you. And we're going to dig deeper into that in a second. But I think another area where we struggle sometimes is we want to start a conversation with a decision maker in a company that we think we should be a supplier to. Now, we know deep down that if we just get to talk to that person and begin to explain what we do and how we do it, and just get access to your sparkling conversation and enormous wit, which I believe for myself, 100%.
100%.
Then do you know what? They'll see the light and they'll give you an opportunity. And that may not be true. The problem is you don't get that conversation.
Yeah.
You
Because
don't.
everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks that, and everybody says, especially in recruitment, realistically, if you haven't worked in recruitment actually within it, you just think recruitment is one thing, putting a bum on a seat, and you may think they're everything else. But that element of differentiating yourself and getting noticed away from your competition and actually being heard is borderline impossible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And AIDA does that. That's what it does. That's its job, to grab their attention. So you get 3 seconds. If you get someone's attention between 3 and 7 seconds, okay. It's like saying, okay, you got me. What you got then? What have you got? And it's saying, well, okay, that's good. So then you've got to build interest. And then that gives you a little longer. Okay, you got my interest now. What have you got? What have you got now? And then you get a slab in the middle to create desire. And at the end of that is a call to action, something that you want them to do. Now, the best calls to action that you can possibly get are passive. If I ring you, take the call. The worst ones are click here and give us your details, or
it's like 20 different things, like your name, your date of birth, where you were born, your favorite color.
You've managed to do the AID. You blow it on the second A. Another one that I get a lot now is a Calendly sent through. Now, I use Calendly a lot, but people are expecting it. So it's, yeah, okay, well, look, yeah, we're going to arrange a meeting. I'll just send the Calendly in. But I get it from people. I got one this morning, actually, on LinkedIn that said, oh, yeah, if you blah, 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 which I wasn't interested in, click here and fill it in. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't anyway, but can't be asked. Whereas some people will take a call. And so your expectations on the action should be quite passive. And the cooler the lead, or the cooler the connection you have with that person, the more passive that needs to be, right? So we're going to talk about this in a second with you, but can I just dig in to AIDA just for a minute? Yes. I mean, we're going to work through 2 examples is what we're going to do today. We're going to look at emails, and we're going to look at campaigns to start a conversation with a hard to find, hard to reach prospect. So AIDA is best served broken down into specific chunks. So if you're doing an email, you've got the subject line, you've got the first sentence, which is about 50 or 60 characters. Then you've got the body of the email, and then you've got the bottom, and you've got the PS. Never ignore the power of a PS on an email, my friends, because everybody reads them, right? So everybody reads them. Hot tip for the day. So in an email, they're broken down into those chunks. With what's called an AIDA connection campaign. So a connection campaign is designed to start a dialogue with a prospect who you hope to turn into a client. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get to speak to them and get a requirement. You might, but it's more likely that you're going to speak to them and begin a cultivation process, at the end of which you get to be inside the circle, getting the leads, getting the work, right? So what we need to do is explain exactly how that works. Okay, so that's and in terms of a campaign, it's specific steps. Probably over we like to do it over between 5 and 7 days, different touch points. So I think the best thing to do is to probably, should we kick off with an example?
I do love an example. So which one should we go with first? Should we go with the emails first?
Let's do emails first.
Start with emails. Okay. Why not? Everybody wants more emails to be read.
Yeah, they do. Right. So tell me, Kirsty, when you get an email, how do you process that email?
I normally put it straight into my bin. Unless it's from a client or somebody within my company. If I don't recognize the name and that, what's it called? The subject line seems vaguely salesy, I almost certainly delete it. I am brutal when it comes to emails. Well, do not sell to me by email. I'm telling you that.
I know that. Asking you was a mistake, wasn't it, really?
Because I'm brutal. I don't like it at all. No.
Could someone else tell me on there what they like about emails? No. Okay, so the subject line is all important. There are a set of rules on subject lines. I think for those people who are members of the Recruitment Pioneers, I rather think there's actually a little kind of white paper on how to get your emails opened on there. I'll have to check, actually. You can go in and have a look to see what you can see. Anyway, but the subject line is all important. And the best thing to do is to test out different versions of it. Now, there's lots of ways that you can do that. And there's lots of tools that you can do that. If it's something really, really important, you'll do what's called an A/B test. So you get 2 subject lines, which are pretty much the same. Sorry, different, but they apply to an email, which is the same. And then you send them out and see how many get opened. You use a tool that you can track opens on. Okay, now that's okay, but you wouldn't do that just for an email that you were sending out to spec in a candidate or something. So there's this great tool. Let me just bring it up. I'm going to bring the whole screen up and we're going to disappear for a minute just because you won't see it anyway because it's too small. This is one of the many online subject line testers. Oh, there you are. Look, here, there she is. Which is coschedule.com, I think it is. Yes, it is. Email tester. And I put one in here. So are you short of candidates? And then it's going to score it. So it thinks that's 50. That's not particularly good, really.
Is that out of 100, that score?
Yes,
is it? I'm assuming.
100. So the higher it is, the better. And it gives you some tips, really. So your email subject one. So maybe if I put in, so there I am, look, I'm not really where I need to be. But if I put in an emoji, apparently it seems to like emojis. So let me just pop one of these in.
You're going to put the crying emoji in?
Well, because you're sad, actually. Oh, it's got.
Oh, it's giving you a whole more 1%.
Yeah, well, it does. No, there's lots of things. I'm not going to go through it. This isn't just about subject lines. What I'm saying is, you can test, and it gives you all this information. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, but it gives you all this information. It tells you what it looks like in different situations when you find it in different ways. And the idea is, certainly, can we go back to us now? Mm-hmm. The idea is that if you want to send, say specking emails out, which is a very common thing, you play around with different versions of it. Get a couple on there that have got really good scores. Then you A/B test them, and then you go with the one that wins forever, or at least until you decide to test them again. So, okay, you wouldn't do it per email. I get that. But you can find a format that works. And there are surprising rules. We did one once. We were testing out for a newsletter that we were sending out. And it was quite an important newsletter because at the back of it, there was kind of a pitch, really. So I was very keen for it to be opened and read. So we tried all these different subject lines. And we had one which was how I built a £40 million business. And the other one was my £40 million subject. Have a guess which one did best.
The second one.
Yes, my £40 million secret. By a factor of 300%. Yeah.
Wowzers.
Yeah. In terms of open rates, massively so. So to be able to put some effort into the subject line is all important. Now, when you've done that, you get a sentence. That first sentence, they'll read it. They've opened it, they'll read it. Some people read more, but apparently the data tells us they read the first sentence. And you have to create interest in that sentence. Now, if you were doing it in a campaign or something, you get a bit more time for that. But in this, you get one sentence. Now, if somebody hasn't got a requirement for the CV that you're sending through, it doesn't matter. They're probably not going to open it, may not read it. But if they've opened it, the chances are they're interested. So you have to put something in that sentence which is very specific. Normally, it relates to the candidate. So this candidate that I'm giving you is this. So that there's an internal tick in the box or cross. No, we don't need any of those. You finish. Well, you did the best you could.
How coincidental. I was just looking for someone like that.
I'll read on. I'll read on. And then you get the body where you create the desire. Now, in the desire, what you actually want to do is put the key things that make that candidate stand out. And this really comes down to the markets that you work in and the kind of people that you provide. So I can't give you a definitive answer. But normally, when we do it for our clients, we'll do it on 3 or 4 bullet points normally.
And it should be really clear and easy to read. Now, here, I have a question for this. On those bullet points, would you do, sometimes you'll do like, so say, for example, I've just got it in my head. It'll be like C++. And then would you, like in bold, and then would you do like a little explanation of it afterwards? Or would you just list out very, very succinctly C++?
Very succinctly, yeah.
Right.
If you want, you can use what's called a 3D summary sheet, which is a 1-page summary of the candidate. Blind, obviously, but it's got certain key information on it. We'll perhaps do a show on these 3D summary sheets because they're awesome. And you can attach that. It's just 1 page. You can attach it as a PDF. But sometimes PDFs will cause some emails to get pushed into junk. So you've got to think about that. But the idea is you just put enough down that they look at it and think, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. And you know better than anyone else what those 3 or 4 points are. And then the call to action can be as simple as saying, if you'd like to see more, just reply to this email with yes, please on it. And I'll know what that means. Or if you feel brave, I'm going to ring in. If you're interested, take the call. Depends on how you view it, right? Whatever you want. So the call to action is can be quite very passive, or it can be marginally passive. But the point is, it's written to AIDA formats.
Yeah.
And therefore it works. Or it doesn't work every time. Don't think that. I tried this once, it didn't work. Mike Ames is rubbish. No. You kind of have to try it more than once. And you have to, like any skill, you have to kind of become adept at it. You have to understand how it works.
That's what I was going to say when you were talking about the emails and using that website CoSchedule, is eventually you start to recognize the things that will work. You start to, like, for example, a lot of people, capital letters in a subject email for some reason are bad, aren't they? They're not.
Yeah. Well, they're okay. They're okay if you put them in square brackets at the very beginning of the subject line.
Right. But simple things like that, the rules that you'll recognize, and it's the same with anything. You'll start to think, in my target market, the kind of people that I'm dealing with, this tends to work. And so at the beginning, it's one of those things where you kind of not take a lot of time on, but focus a little bit more on, you have a little bit more detail. But then as things progress, you start to understand not only how AIDA works in general, but also how it works for your target market and your industry. Now, I do have a question, Mike, as well regarding AIDA from Gavin, which is, this is when we were talking about email subjects under the first line.
100%,
so does this apply on LinkedIn or Facebook?
100%. It's the same in LinkedIn posts. You get 150 characters, about 150 characters, including spaces at the beginning, and you must grab their attention in that. So the best way to do it with LinkedIn, we find, and this is what we teach people to do, is write your post, and then whichever the paragraph is that connects with you the most, switch that and make the first paragraph, because chances are that's the one that's going to grab their attention. So yeah, for sure. And the same for anything of that nature, but particularly LinkedIn, because you've got that see more, which the LinkedIn algorithm likes. Anything where you want people to properly engage and read, and then at the end, perhaps action, you need to write it in AIDA. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. So we understand how it works for an email campaign. Now, again, most of those people I'm imagining that you're emailing, not everybody, but I imagine a lot of them will be people that you have probably some sort of prior relationship with. The odds of you sending something completely cold when it comes to
specking emails would probably be cold, but apart from that.
But one that we have, which is very difficult, is starting a conversation with somebody that is completely cold, or, we spoke about it, connection.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the moment, I could get requirements if I wanted to. You could get requirements if you ring enough people today. Someone will give you a requirement, because, damn, there's a lot of requirements out there. But still, those high-value prospects, those people that work for organisations where they're not going to ask their secretary to Google. We need somebody to go on and Google recruitment agencies and get me one. That's not going to happen. They're not going to give you an opportunity if you ring in. That's not what they do. That's not how it works for them. And they're the ones you want, of course, because if they do it for you, then they're going to do it for other people when they ring in, and that's not the kind of supply you want. Now, I'm not saying that specking is a bad thing. We're very keen on it, but I think if you want to target the clients that you want, the ones that you want, then you need something a little chunkier. And that's where an AIDA connection campaign comes into its own, right? So it's made up of a number of steps. There are many different versions of them. We ran one for a client only a few weeks ago, which we designed and tested it, so we knew it would work. And we sent it to 23 high-value prospects. Now, these were people who this company, it was a recruitment company, had targeted and had got nowhere with for some years. They got nowhere with. They ran the campaign and they got meetings with 9 of them. Now, that's the best I've ever done, by the way. So don't think that happens all the time.
What, like 40%?
45%, 45%, yeah. And they may have got more. I haven't spoken to them for a week or so. So I don't know. And that is unusual. Please don't, again, quote me on that. Mike Ames said, you run this, I'll be talking to everybody. Doesn't work.
I only got 25%. It's a failure. We'll never do it again.
I'm very happy if we get, 10%. I've been delighted if I get that now. I mean, I won't bore you with those campaigns now. We'll talk about those another day as well, because they're very interesting. But let me talk you through the AIDA version of it. So you need to grab their attention. When we say that, most people think they'll just send an email or an invitation to connect on LinkedIn or an email. Not really. No, I don't think so. Not really going to get to where you want it to be. So in this, I'm not going to tell you what we did for this particular client, obviously, but I am going to share what we've done for ourselves, because I can do that. That's fine. So we had this campaign, and the A was done with this. Can you see that?
Other side. There we go. So just for everybody who's watching, it's a postcard. with some chocolates on it, and it's a larger than normal size
Picture
postcard. It's probably
postcard.
two size postcards next to each
I
other.
think it's an A5, isn't it? I don't know,
I think
whatever.
it's A5.
Anyway, yeah. So and that is when we write it on the back, it's handwritten, and the address normally comes handwritten as well.
With a stamp as
with a stamp on it. And the idea of that is to grab attention. That's it. So you could just send that and say, well, hey, I'll be in touch, right? But we put some more effort into it than that. So we put a message on it, which is going to create intrigue. So we've got attention. We begin to build interest. Okay, that's the deal. So the second thing we sent was a box of chocolates. Now, this was we were targeting certain types of people, and we tested it. Chocolates worked. They don't always work. Right? You can use whatever you like. But the idea of this is that it sends the message that obviously I'm not sending this out to 1 million people, obviously. And it comes with a letter, and in the letter, and sometimes not in this particular case, but we have used infographics in the past to go with it. But in this was a letter which just described a problem that I know their demographic has. Okay, so, and I begin to hint at the solution. So I know it's not going to connect with everybody because not everybody's going to have that problem. But the best way to create interest is talk about issues or opportunities. Those two things, right? In this case, we went with a problem that we knew they had. And then I said, well, I'm going to send you the solution. So you don't have to do anything. I'm going to send the solution. Then we sent them an ebook, which unfortunately I haven't got printed off. I was going to.
Well, you wouldn't really have an ebook printed off, would you, I suppose?
Yeah, we printed them off and we sent it. An ebook just means a small kind of description of stuff, but it was highly valuable. And then after that, the next step. So that's beginning to create desire, right? It tells you what to do, but not necessarily how to do it in detail. And then we had a little micro course which dug into this, which we sent an email with a link to go to this. You don't have to give the details or anything. You just have to click and watch. And then it ended up with the webinar. That was the plan. Some we did with the micro course, some we did without. Actually, the one without worked better, but whatever. But essentially, we went through the steps of grabbing attention with that, building up the interest by talking about a problem from the point of view of somebody that clearly understands that, hinting at the solution, sending the solution, and then saying, well, if you want more, you just have to tell us and we'll register you for this webinar, which we did. So that's a classic AIDA connection campaign. It was cheap as chips. And I think we got about a 4,000, well, actually it was 4,200 and something or whatever, % return on investment.
It's not bad, is it?
Tell me how you can get that on anything. Here's AIDA in one box. Let me show you AIDA in a box. Don't know whether you've seen these or not. This is
I love these.
It's Mike Ames video card. You open it and it's a little video.
Yep. So we had that branded up with our brands. It's like got a little play button and a little pause button, some volume controls.
That's everything. If you got that, if I sent you that, would that grab your attention? Duh. Yeah.
Doesn't love a video card.
It would. If you open it and I got the opening, I'm going to get more than 3 seconds, right? I'm probably going to get 7 seconds. If in the first 7 seconds I hit you with something that gets your interest, then I've probably got another 30 seconds or so, 30 to 45 seconds to create desire. And then after that, it's up to me, really. I can put extra detail in, which we do. It's a video, so you can do what you like with it, really. But really what I want them to do is take a call from me. That's all, really.
Yeah. And we personalized it as well. So the beginning of that video, we personalized it. So it was, hi, Gary, or hi, Sue. And then the rest of the video was all the same. Yeah. So yeah, we got quite a good conversion on that one as well.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we did. And we're going to use it again soon. So
if nothing else, a lot of people were like, where did you get these?
Yes, that's it.
I want to take the call, but I want to know where this is from.
There's all sorts. I'm doing a campaign in Australia, which is centered around hot cross buns right now. It's going out in a few weeks' time. This is another campaign that we ran centered on a book. There you go. And we focused on some certain types of recruiters with that. That worked. It's just about thinking through, answering the questions. How can I grab attention? How am I going to build interest? How am I going to create that desire that people want to know more? They want to engage. They want to be part of this. And then what's that simple passive call to action that someone's going to say, yeah, I'm going to reply to this. I'll take that call. I'll tell my PA if he rings in, to put him through. Right. So, and there's lots of things that you can do. You can build in LinkedIn invitations to connect, which we usually put in ours to test kind of how it's going, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of things that you can build. I'd say probably a third of the things that we do for our bigger clients are connection campaigns, because they are so powerful, and the data that we can provide just proves they work. So
Yeah.
I think we've pretty much come to the end now. Obviously, we didn't get time for questions today, but if you've got any, if you type them in, I will answer them. Well, you can email me directly, and if you don't want to put it onto LinkedIn, and so everyone can see, if you email me directly, I'll answer every single message that comes in. So,
or connect with you on LinkedIn is the other way to do it as well.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, Mike. So in a second, I'm going to summarize. But before we do that, so I don't forget, because sometimes I do, next week is a very exciting week because we're doing something a little bit different. If I'm
we are. We're going to talk about cash cow lifestyle companies. So if you own a recruitment company, you had the dream of building and selling, you realise that that's going to be hard. And when you realise that only 0.2% of all recruitment companies get sold, it's like, well, okay, how am I going to make myself rich and have a great time then? And that's what a cash cow lifestyle business does. So I'm going to explain all about that. Very excited about that.
Very, very excited. Okay, so let me just quickly summarize. So today we spoke about AIDA, which helps you to solve the common problem of differentiating yourself from your audience and actually getting them to not only pay attention to you, but to do what you want them to do. Not necessarily sign on the dotted line, but receive a call or accept your invitation to connect or something like that. So essentially what AIDA stands for is attention, interest, desire, and action. So attention is about doing something that just gets their attention, which allows them to then give you 3 or 4 more seconds, where you then get to build interest. You get to say, like, it's connecting to a problem or a common theme or creating some sort of connection with them in their brain. You then do something that builds desire. So you say, this problem, there is a solution, and it's sort of this, and you sort of tell them enough to get them to build their desire, so that when you do the final A, which is action, which should be as passive as humanly possible if you want to get higher conversion rates, they are more likely to do it. They're more likely to receive a call for you or email yes to something, or something very, very simple. So
and the same, entirely the same applies when you're doing emails or LinkedIn posts or pitches. It's the same.
Yeah, exactly. And this AIDA is almost everywhere. When you learn it, it's everywhere. It's in LinkedIn posts, it's in videos, it's in billboards, it's in anything to do with marketing or sales. You can find pretty much AIDA in there. So, Mike, I think I've summarized it fairly well there.
You've done very well. Thank you.
If I do say so myself. And we've had some very nice comments from people saying that they found us helpful today, which I very much enjoy. Thank you very much, guys. But, Mike, as always, I come to you with a final tip. What is the thing that people who are watching or listening to this thinking, right, okay, I want to get involved in AIDA. What can I do to start? What should they do?
Very simple. It's this, really. Start small, just play around with different subject lines. You can use CoSchedule. There are loads of them out there that you can use. Just Google, how to get my emails opened, or subject line analyzer probably. Anyway, CoSchedule is as good as any of them, quite frankly. And begin to understand what happens when you phrase it in this way. Like, do you get more opens if you have the same subject line starting with a capital or with a lowercase? Typically, lowercase does better results, but it makes a difference when you're sending emails to people that don't know you and normally would delete them. So I think it's really important to think about that and try and understand, especially if you've got certain types of email, like introduction emails, like speccing emails, like even down to invitations to connect on LinkedIn. AIDA applies. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So just think about what you're going to do. And if you do that with the subject lines, and you can begin over a period of time to see a difference, then you know that it works. And then the second thing, I know there's no second thing, is there? But I think another tip really is then to begin to think about that interest. What can you talk about with your targets, whoever it is out there that you go for? What can you talk about that's going to get their interest? And normally it's a problem that they have, that demographic has. You don't know for certain that person has, or it's an opportunity that demographic is keen to make the most of. Or you can include threats and all sorts, but those two are the really ones that you go for. And then you're going to be well on the way to being an AIDA expert.
Well, that is the dream and the wish for us all. So once again, I would like to thank everybody who's watched today and got involved. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Michael for discussing AIDA with us. It's been marvelous. Yes. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
We do indeed. And thank you very much, Kirsty. See you guys.